Summer League has arrived. So who are we watching? Yes, there are the three obvious guys, but let's dive deeper into the roster as we get set for the Magic to open Summer League Friday afternoon. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is July 12th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I am the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OND. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, it's the players to watch at Summer League. Yes, we will talk about the three guys we actually care about and deeper dives into the players, deeper into the roster that you may not know about. We'll talk about who else to keep an eye on as Magic still have one open roster spot left. Apparently still also their mid-level exception. That's news to me. We'll talk about who the Magic are looking at here as Summer League gets going. But before we do any of that, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We're going to talk about Anthony Black, Jett Howard, and Tristan Da Silva, but we've talked a lot about them already. And look, Summer League is Summer League. It's content. We're going to talk about it. I'll be on here Friday night after the game to discuss the game and what we learned and what we saw from the game. We're not going to we're going to treat this seriously as we always do, but let's not make mountains out of molehills here. It is Summer League. The players that we're talking about, for the most part, are fighting for the end of the roster. They are fighting for a spot in the NBA. The Magic have an open roster spot and two-way spots, so there is some intrigue, but a lot of the guys we're going to talk about in the back half of this episode, not to tell you not to tune in, keep watching, please. We truly appreciate it. Our advertisers truly appreciate it. But we're talking about guys at the end of the roster. We're talking about small potatoes here. I don't want to skip over it, but I want to just premise that while we're going to be very intense about Summer League for the next week, it's not the end of the world. It's not the most important thing. It's not the end-all be-all. As we've said throughout the course of this offseason, the Magic's whole project depends on Paolo Banchero getting better. All this other stuff doesn't matter. If Paolo Banchero is better, the Magic are better. If Franz Wagner's better, the Magic are better. And we will get to the Olympics later on as well. We'll talk Germany. We'll talk U.S. We'll get to all of them. But having said that, the player that I most want to see this week, the player that I'm most intrigued to see, is the only player on the Magic Summer League roster that feels guaranteed to have a major role for this team. Look, Markelle Fultz is still sitting there in free agency. And if it is true, our friend Keith Smith of Spot Track reporting that the Magic still have their mid-level exception to spend, the room mid-level exception to spend. My cap math had them spending it on Goga Bitadze, but I should go back and redo that. But if the Magic still truly have their room mid-level exception to spend, then it is possible that they could bring Markelle Fultz back. Obviously, I don't think they necessarily want to do that because that would mean Anthony Black is not ready to be the backup point guard, not the starting point guard, but the backup point guard. I don't want to put pressure on anybody, and I don't necessarily think there is pressure on anybody. But this is a big week. This is a big moment, and these Summer League games, whether he plays 2, whether he plays 3 games, however many games he plays, is our public understanding of where Anthony Black is. It is a big week for Anthony Black. Because, yes, Tristan Da Silva does have a path to play. Jett Howard does have a path to play. And they both could be very important players for this team. And we know we're going to see injuries during the year. If you're on the roster, you are going to be used. There's going to be a time when everyone is going to be needed. Trevelyan Queen was huge in Sacramento. He was huge in Denver. Big factor in two really important games for the Magic this season. Everybody on the roster is going to be needed at some point. So yes, if Anthony Black flops in Summer League, that's not the end of the story. He's going to be needed at some point during the season. The question is whether the Magic come out of Summer League feeling like, oh, we got our backup point guard, we're set, or, oh, we're in bigger trouble than we thought. Let's go get Tyus Jones, whatever you have to do. Let's go bring back Markelle Fultz. Options are still there. They're still out there. Very, very clearly. Anthony Black, though, has all the tools and, frankly, the experience now to take on that role. And by all accounts, everything the Magic are telling us, and it's not just the Magic staff, brass, it's not Jeff Weltman, it's not Lionel Chalmers, the head coach, it's Jett Howard saying, oh, AB's been killing it in practice. He's been killing it in workouts with me at the BetterHelp Training Center. His shot has come along. It's going to be about Anthony Black taking control of this team. Summer League teams are weird. They started practice Sunday as a group. They'll kind of organize parts of the summer started less than a week ago. They practiced Sunday, they practiced Monday, they practiced Tuesday. I believe they practiced Wednesday before traveling to Vegas, and they practiced Thursday. So that's 5 days of practice before they play their first game. Friday could be rough. It's the first game of Vegas Summer League completely. It's the first game on the schedule Friday. It could be rough turnover-wise. But here's what we need to see from Anthony Black. It's less about his shooting. I'd love to see him shoot great. That's awesome. To me, what I want to see is him organize this team. He's talked a little bit about it, how he needs to take a leadership role and kind of show all the new players who are wearing Magic jerseys for the first time what it means to play Magic basketball, to set that example. As the point guard, it is his responsibility to organize and develop this team. It is his responsibility to make sure everyone's in the right spot, to keep them playing at the right pace. As Black said, he knows that the Magic want him to be more aggressive. But that doesn't mean being out of control and searching only for his own shot. He needs to show this team that he can be a point guard. That's something the Magic didn't ask him to do, frankly, last year. They may have asked him to bring the ball up the floor and get the team into its initial sets, but he had a 12% usage rate. He was standing on the sideline, standing in the corners, kind of staying out of the way. The Magic played him last year because they had to, because of injuries to Markelle Fultz. And look, Black benefited from the experience. We know he can defend at an NBA level. We're not questioning that Black can fit somewhere onto an NBA team. The question is, can he fit into a winning NBA team? Can he contribute as a winning NBA player? And the bottom line is this. Unlike Jett Howard, who spent most of his year, he played less than 100 minutes total in the NBA last year. And certainly Tristan Da Silva coming from college, Anthony Black truly has that second-year bump. We expect players in their second summer league, in their second season, we expect them to play better, to be better, to look like veterans, to look like they know what they're doing. That's what we expect when we enter this scenario, when we enter summer league. We expect these players to know who they are. And Black has a lot to prove. He has a lot of areas to grow. And so we need to see it all. We need to see that jumper look more confident. We need to see him be more aggressive getting downhill into the paint. We need to see him take on those point guard roles. And look, there's going to be ups and downs. It's summer league. It's not going to be perfect. I'd love to see turnovers get knocked down, but frankly, I'm going to worry less about the total turnover number rather than the actual turnovers that he's committing. If he's dribbling the ball off his foot and kind of throwing the ball around, I'm not going to be happy. If he throws it and there's a miscommunication, I'm not going to be upset about that. If he's aggressive trying to make things happen and guys just don't catch the ball or whatever the case may be, summer league's the kind of time where you have to watch and you have to evaluate what you're seeing and how it translates to what his role ultimately will be. And that's really what we're going to be sitting here trying to figure out as summer league begins. What is Anthony Black's role? we have at least some definition of what Jett Howard is. Tristan Da Silva is a rookie. I'm expecting ups and downs with him. Anthony Black is the one guy who we should expect a stellar performance from, who we should expect to show us what he's going to be when the regular season begins. That's a lot of pressure. I don't mean to put a lot of pressure on the kid. I like the kid. I genuinely like the kid. And I love his talent. I think he will step up. But the Magic got to figure things out because we're not just here to develop kids anymore. We're here to win. And Anthony Black has to prove he is ready to contribute to that winning. So what should we expect from Jett Howard and Tristan Da Silva? We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel. Get the lowdown on the biggest stories in sports, not just basketball, but baseball, football, anything, college, anything, NHL, anything. Get the latest on the big stories from around the sports world from the local experts who know their team best. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Use the power of the Locked On Podcast Network and our network of local hosts to give you the lowdown on the biggest stories in sports. The Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Obviously, we're not just watching Anthony Black, and I think all eyes will be on the big three, the three roster players who are here. We're going to get to other players to know and think about on the Magic Summer League roster here in a bit. I think there are some very interesting players on this roster. We'll go through a bunch of names, so you'll be at least a little bit prepared. I don't know who the Magic are planning to start. I imagine their starting lineup will be Anthony Black, Jett Howard, Tristan Da Silva at those three positions. Probably Jarrett Culver and Jay Huff in the other two spots, but we'll talk about them a little bit here coming up in a minute. But there's obviously a lot on the line for Jett Howard and a lot on the line for Tristan Da Silva here too. And again, maybe not a lot on the line, but they both need to kind of give us the baseline for what to expect. Jett Howard has made this very, very clear what his expectations are. He knows he can shoot. We know he can shoot. Frankly, I'm not concerned about his shooting percentage. He is a capable shooter. He will make three-pointers. He'll put up three-pointers. He gives the Magic a volume element that they don't have. And I'm sure the Magic would love to be able to use that. The question then is, how do you get Jett Howard on the floor? And he knows the answer to that. He knows the answer to get on the floor for this Magic team is to play defense. And that has always been Jett Howard's weakness. That was the biggest knock on him coming out of Michigan, was that he just did not look interested in defending. And it made us all a little confused about why the Magic drafted him, because it was like, okay, this is not a very typical Magic draft pick. But Jeff Weltman assured us that the reason he struggled with his defense was injuries. A lot of us kind of looked side-eyed at him on that one, where we weren't completely buying that story. But everyone seemed very happy with this time with the Osceola Magic. Again, say what you want about it. Every time I talk about Jett Howard, every time I've talked about Jett Howard this week, I see a bunch of comments under my videos saying, oh, he's a bust. He's not a bust yet. Give him a chance to freaking play. The Magic planned to have him in the G League for a year. What happened last year with him and Osceola was planned. That wasn't because he wasn't good enough. If he were better, obviously I think he would have played, but they planned to put him in the G League and to give him that opportunity to get better and refine his skills. The kid is 18 years old now. He's 19, 20. He needed time to get better. So, but having said that, this is the time to prove that he's better. One of the reasons the Magic really like Jett Howard is they did view him as a potential playmaker in addition to a shooter. It's why they liked him. They liked his size, obviously. But it's one of the reasons they liked him over a Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins in that draft is they believed his size and his playmaking potential. So frankly, I trust that Jett Howard's going to make shots. I know he's not afraid to take shots. That's his MO. That part's not changing. He could shoot 33% from three on good volume, and I won't blink an eye out that. It's just like, okay, whatever. Small sample size, whatever. He's doing other things. I'm more focused on how he works on the ball. Is he a smarter playmaker? Is he a smarter defender? It's not necessarily about getting stops. It's about being in the right spot. It's about communicating. It's about executing the Magic's defensive game plan. I imagine that some players will be able to still take him one-on-one, but that's not what I'm thinking about with defense. I want to see him defend within the team concept and put the effort in. It, to me, and it's the same way with Anthony Black. I don't care how much he scores. He could score 5 points per game. I don't care. I want to see him make the right plays, make the right decisions, make the right reads, and be aggressive doing it. With Jett Howard, it's the same deal. I don't care how much he scores. I know the shot's there with him. I want to see him defend. I want to see him make the right play. I want to see him be smart with his shot selection. I don't want to see him just jacking up shots. I want to see him make those reads and make those decisions that are going to be important when we get to the regular season. At the end of the day, that's what we need to be focused on. What does this team do in the playoffs, in the regular season? How do these players contribute to winning? And by all accounts, this is the thing that everyone's really excited to see from Tristan Da Silva. Tristan Da Silva has constantly described himself as, I play the right way. Whatever the team needs me to do, I'm going to do. If they need me to pass, I'll pass. If they need me to shoot, I'll shoot. I'm actually really interested to see his shooting. I want to see how his shooting translates to an NBA setting. Because if he is a knockdown shooter, which he was in college, that changes a lot of things. I think we're so focused on a bunch of different things with Da Silva, just the way he kind of fits and plugs in wherever you need him. I think we're forgetting he was a pretty good shooter at Colorado last year. But with Tristan Da Silva, I want to see this play out. What does a Tristan Da Silva basketball look like? If he says, I just fit in, I make the right play. That's what the Magic are saying. That's what he's saying about himself. What does that look like? How do we use that? Da Silva's a rookie. I'm expecting mistakes. I'm not expecting perfection from him. I say this all the time about Summer League. Summer League is not about telling us who can play. It's about telling us who can't play. So I need to be able to see that Da Silva can do something on an NBA floor, that he can hold his own at this point. Obviously, you want to see more. I'm not sitting here saying otherwise, but we all should remember Franz Wagner really struggled with his scoring and his shooting in Summer League, but we all watched him and we're like, okay, he can hold his own physically. The shot wasn't there, but it wasn't a disaster. Things turned out okay with Franz Wagner, I think. With Tristan Da Silva, I want to see very much the same thing. I want to see him be able to hold his own, especially defensively. I want to see him be able to make smart passes, make smart reads, just beginning to get a feel for what those reads are. And then when the opportunity comes to score, to be aggressive and to find his own. For a rookie like him, it's about getting comfortable, not only on an NBA floor, but within the Magic system and within what the Magic want to run and where they want to put him. Tristan Da Silva should do that. 23 years old. Everyone we've talked to at practice, everyone I've heard from practice has said he very much feels like a veteran player or someone who's older. He understands, he picks things up quickly. He understands where he's supposed to be on the floor. And especially in this read and react offense the Magic tend to run, that's going to be super, super, super valuable. Tristan Da Silva, I'm not really worried about Tristan Da Silva. Again, he's a rookie, whatever you get from him, I'm going to be pretty happy. Obviously, you look better, gets everyone more hype, but we got to watch these games. Like it's not about stats. Stats will be helpful. They'll clue us into some things, but stats don't tell the story in summer league. All three of these players, though, have the opportunity to accomplish something and really take this important step for the Magic and take this important step and show us who they ultimately will be. It's really exciting. I'm really, really, really excited to see what this all looks like. But we got some work to do first. We got to watch these games play, and obviously 4:00 on Friday is going to be a really fun time for all of us to just get back into the groove with Magic basketball once again. Of course, these three players aren't the only players on the Magic roster. Let's talk about some hidden gems on the Magic Summer League roster. Who could fill one of those two-way spots or that last roster spot? We'll talk about the rest of the roster coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. Look, social media can play a very positive part of our lives. It can also play a very negative part of our lives. We go through the doom scroll. Not only are there the dreadful politics on both sides of the aisle, it's toxic in both directions here in an election year. That gives you stress. You're seeing these very carefully manicured, sometimes AI-enhanced photos of people that seem to be living their best lives, and it can make you feel a bit down about your life sometimes. It sure feels like social media is set up to make us feel bad, and we're just inundated with it. We all live our lives on our computers. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives and look at your own without the rosiest of pictures. In reality, though, all these people probably don't have their things together. They're probably dealing with the same stresses and anxiety that you are. So therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. I'm someone who subscribes to therapy. It has helped me so many times throughout my life, just helping me get emotions on the table, verbalize them, put them out into the universe, frankly, and just kind of sit with them and feel them sometimes. And then my therapist helps me deal with those emotions and find ways to channel that energy positively. That's really what therapy does. It allows you to feel your feelings and then channel them positively. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA today. So obviously we got three players we're really, really focused on in Anthony Black, Jett Howard, and Tristan Da Silva. And we're going to see them for at least 2 games. I'm skeptical we'll see them for a third game, just knowing how the Magic operate, whether that's the right decision or the wrong decision. I'll throw my hands up and say Jeff Weltman, Jamal Mosley, and his staff are making those decisions, is what it is. For however long we see them, we're going to see them. But obviously the work of Summer League is not done. The Magic still have two-way spots open, as well as a final roster spot. And frankly, last year's Summer League roster was really rough. I did not like last year's Summer League roster. I thought that it was had a lot of shortcomings, especially at center, that really held them back. No offense to the Kai Soto Hive. He was hurt as well. But this roster is much more balanced. I think there's much more opportunity for the Magic to see players who could contribute to the roster in some way or contribute to the Osceola Magic. The place I want to start, or the player I want to start with, is Jarrett Culver. You might remember that name. Jarrett Culver was the 6th or 7th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, and really struggled to find his footing. He started with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was drafted as this excellent defender coming from a Texas Tech team that went to the national championship game. Played really, really well. I really liked him in the draft process. I didn't really have him high on my board for the Magic that year. And this is the year they drafted Chuma Okeke, so they were further down in the draft that year. because his shooting was so poor. He was a sub 30% shooter, but his defense was real. And there is no reason to think his defense would not translate. But Culver never found his footing. Averaged only 9.2 points per game in 63 appearances for the Minnesota Timberwolves in his rookie year, and his shooting struggles really held him back. In 4 NBA seasons, he has averaged 6.5 points per game and shot 27.6% from 3. He's found a little bit of a renaissance, though, in the G League. For the Grand Valley Vipers last year, he averaged 20.9 points per game and 6.9 rebounds per game, even shot 38% from 3 on 5.9 attempts per game. It's a little bit of hope there. Culver is a quintessential Magic player. A 6'6" forward who can play up a position, long arms, excellent defense. Now, don't ever expect 6th overall pick Jarrett Culver to come back again. That's not going to be who he is. He's going to be a change-up defender, kind of a Bo Outlaw type defender off the bench. A little bit better shooter than Bo Outlaw was. Sorry, Bo. But he is someone that is an NBA player, has played in the NBA for several years now, can come in and defend at a high level. Now, because he has 4 years of NBA experience, he's ineligible for two-way contracts. So if you're bringing him in for a roster spot, it has to be that last roster spot. I think the Magic don't necessarily need another wing there. I would like to see them add either another kind of 3-4, kind of a hybrid 4, Culver's on the small end of that, or a third point guard. I think the Magic need a third point guard anyway. We're going to get to some point guard options here in a minute. But Culver to me is a very, he's talented. Like I say this all the time about the draft. Draft experts don't ever get talent wrong. Players are talented. Whether that talent culminates or becomes something that they can use in the NBA, that is another question. Jarrett Culver never really put those skills and that talent together at an NBA level. He struggled with that, and he's starting to kind of find a second win and hopefully a second space to get there. But Culver is a high-level player, and I think he's going to play. I think he's going to start at the 3-4 next to Da Silva. He is a very high-level player that the Magic have on their Summer League roster, and we will see how that translates in Summer League and see if he's knocking on the door of coming back into the NBA once again. Like I said, there's a few point guard options here on this roster that I want to talk about. First one I want to talk about is another player with NBA experience, Theo Maledon. Theo Maledon was a second-round pick a few years back. Appeared in 17 games last year with the Phoenix Suns and Charlotte Hornets. His NBA time kind of ran out. He peaked in his rookie year in 2021 for the Oklahoma City Thunder with 10.1 points per game and 3.5 assists per game. Shot 33.5% from 3. That's always been kind of the weakness with him. But Theo Maledon is a pretty big point guard, 6'4", 6'5", I believe. Has had some good showings here and there. And so he's a name that you probably remember. I know we talked about him in the draft process back in 2021 as well, or 2020, but he's got some versatility. He's an interesting defender. He's a potentially good playmaker and passer. He's just got to get that offense going. And Maledon is someone to keep an eye on. He's someone with NBA experience. But the guard that I would really have my eye on is someone you've probably not heard of. It's Xavier Moon. Xavier Moon is a pure G League prospect. He doesn't have a ton of NBA experience under him. But last year for the Ontario Clippers, he averaged 20.1 points per game and 6.1 assists per game while shooting 40.2% from 3. So you're looking at, what does this check off? Checks off the playmaking and passing, done. Checks off the three-point shooting, done. And doing it at a high level in the G League is certainly a good sign. In 3 years in the G League, Moon has averaged 20.5 points per game and 6 assists per game while shooting 40.5% from 3. Overall, he's shown steady progress in all the key statistical areas and has shot better than 40% from 3 in his last 2 seasons in the G League. He played a 10-game stint with the LA Clippers in 2022 and averaged 5.8 points per game and 2.4 assists per game and 13.7 minutes per game. This is all to say Xavier Moon is probably a G League player who is knocking on the door for an NBA chance. Whether that means the Magic would give him a two-way spot, I think that would be a very good bet, that he'd be in the running to get a two-way spot and be kind of half in, half out with the G League. But a really good Summer League showing and Anthony Black looking really good, that could get him a contract spot. I think that this is a player who is very capable of pushing his way onto the roster. And the moment Anthony Black is shut down and done for Summer League, he's going to step in. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if the Magic go with a Moon, Black, Da Silva, Howard, and then probably Jay Huff, 7-foot center. Really good offensive player. Interesting. It can shoot it a little bit slow-footed defensively. I don't think he's a Magic kind of defender at the rim, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's the starting lineup on Friday. I think Xavier Moon is due to have a very big summer league, and frankly, a summer league where if the Magic don't snap him up, I think someone will. His numbers in the G League make me think that he is very, very, very close to getting an NBA spot down the road. Other guys that I want you to keep an eye on are Isaiah Todd, 31st pick in the 2021 draft. He struggled to find his footing in the G League or the NBA, but obviously, again, talent is talent. Guys will find talent. I'd also keep an eye on Jared Rhoden. He got some playing time with the Detroit Pistons last year. He's excelled as a big guard in the G League, more of a 2 than a 1. But Rhoden is definitely someone to keep an eye on. The rookie that I really have my eye on too is South Carolina guard Talon Cooper. He went undrafted, but solid 3-point shooter, all SEC second team selection last year. So keep an eye on Talon Cooper when he gets his playing time. But there are some players outside of the 3 that we really care about for the Magic that on paper at least look like they're worth a shot and look like they're worth examining. And so there will be a lot of intrigue here as Summer League begins, as we get through these games and we figure out, okay, how do we fill out the rest of our roster? How do we fill out the Osceola roster? The Osceola roster is going to have quite a bit of turnover with Kevon Harris gone, with Admiral Schofield gone. Trevelyan Queen will still be there, kind of going back and forth. Jett Howard's obviously hopefully going to be gone, not back in the G League anytime soon either. There's definitely a lot at play here for a lot of these players. So we'll be watching all of it as Summer League begins. Tip-off for the Orlando Magic. They are the first game of the Las Vegas Summer League against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is 4 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Pacific. It is at Cox Pavilion. It'll be on NBA TV. We will be back here tomorrow, Friday night episode, to recap the Magic's first Summer League game, our big takeaways from that game. That'll be tomorrow here on Locked On Magic. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, the Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun on podcasts to your podcast enablement device. Be sure to check us out on YouTube if you haven't already, and subscribe there. Helps us out a ton. We truly do appreciate that. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. If you want my immediate thoughts from the Magic Summer League opener, as well as any immediate reaction to any breaking news, subscribe to my Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Put plenty more Magic content up there too, beyond what I write at Orlando Magic Daily. Be sure to check that out. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll see you tomorrow to recap the Magic's first Summer League game. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.